Saying, you're not fighting against the Chaldeans, you're fighting against me. And there is no winning when you are going to fight against God. God's plans are purposeful and they will always succeed. You find that over in Isaiah. You also find it in the New Testament. And so in this word, he says, he abideth in the city. If you abide in the city and you want to stay and fight, you're going to die. You're going to die either by the sword, you're going to die by famine, or you're going to die by pestilence, disease. If we look at our lives today, we have seen all of that happening. The unfortunate side is when we look at abiding in the city, you die by the sword. People that are abiding in the city and living in sin, doing things that they know they shouldn't, the sword is not necessarily a knife, but even our own selves being cut off by the Spirit of the Lord. We find today in our situation, there is not a war waging in the United States where we kill more people with a gun than they have been killed in the Vietnam War as well as in the Iraqi War. How is that possible that we're killing one another in such a dramatic and devastating fashion? And that's unfortunate because we're killing ourselves. Now we have famine because of what people are now no longer working, and while they may not be dying, famine is in our land. What we also find is there's pestilence in our land. And what are we telling people? You have to turn back to the Lord. And that just doesn't mean the people that's all of us, the children of God, need to be mindful that we should be bringing people to the Lord, bringing people to where God is. And that's in our churches, that's in our homes, that we love God and make sure that message is true. So in today's lessons, he said, you can choose. I'm going to bring you to the one. You can either live or die. If you stay here and fight, they're fighting against the children of the and they had no idea of their sin. They had not even made themselves aware. When Zedekiah sent the people down to ask Jeremiah to go to the Lord, he didn't repent. He just said, go on out there and ask him to do a wondrous work and deliver us like he had in the past. Well, in the past, God had delivered the Israelites from their enemy. He is going to deliver them from the enemy today, and that's themselves. So in today's lesson also, he tells them, you're going to be caught up, you're going to be killed if you stay. He says, well, where will we go? What will happen is, if you surrender to the Chaldeans and go with them, then you shall live. Your life is in the hands of the Chaldeans. Death is in the city. See, God has spoken against Jerusalem. Jerusalem had become so prideful and selfish and self-centered, they missed the whole message that God had for them. So they had become so enamored with the fact that the temple of the Lord was there, which they felt protected them from any adversity that would have come. So they felt because of their position, they felt because of the fact that the temple was there, that they were worshiping God in the temple, but they took it for granted that he would take care of them. So often we do the same thing. We take God for granted and treat him as if he is someone that he is our servant, not us being his servant. So what we find in today's lesson, he tells them, you get a choice. You can stay or you can go. He said, and if you go, you will live. We know a lot of times we read over in Jeremiah, the 29th chapter, a lot of times he has set his plans for us. But when you read the verses before that, and those 4 verses before that, he says, the Lord of hosts has allowed the children of Israel to go into bondage. He is using Nebuchadnezzar as his servant. We know that Habakkuk was a little bit concerned because he knew Nebuchadnezzar was ruthless. That Babylonians took no prisoner. They were all about ruthless, murderous, vandalous people. And so, what we have in today's lesson is the Lord says, I've allowed them to come in. They are my servants. If you read over into Jeremiah, he tells them that. He said he's using them to cleanse and to turn the Israelites back to him. So in this 29th chapter, he says, thus said the Lord of hosts, unto all that are carried away into captivity, whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build your houses and dwell in them. Plant your gardens, eat the fruit of them. Take your wives, beget your sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons, give daughters to husbands, and that they bear sons and daughters, that you will find an increase and not be diminished. And seek peace for the city, whether I have caused you to go to be carried away. Pray unto the Lord, for in the peace thereof shall you have peace. He said, and then he drops down, he says, for thus the Lord said, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you, and I will perform my good word toward you, and causing you to return. So God's wrath against the children of Israel, his fury against them, was their correction. God gets angry with us. He allows us to have difficulties to come in our lives as a point of correction. In some cases, and a lot of people will think about that, we think it's a punishment. Sometimes it's just to make us better. We talked about the pruning process that God uses to bring us back or bring us into a closer relationship with him. Sometimes we get a little bit too prideful, and God's got to do what God's got to do to bring us around. And we should welcome God making us to be aware of his work in our lives. I think when he says to them, I give you a choice of life and death, that means that you can obey me or you can rebel. And we don't want to rebel against God. We don't want to fight against God. You find that in the New Testament as well, in the disciples, after Jesus had resurrected in the Pentecost, and they were going all throughout Jerusalem preaching and teaching. The Sanhedrin was telling them not to preach in the name of the Lord, and they were beating them and persecuting them. And unfortunately, they didn't get it until Gamaliel, the man told them in Acts 5, told them, he said, man, you need to leave these people alone. If they're operating from their own will, out of their own flesh, they're going to fall. He said, but if they are not, and they are actually walking and operating according to the will of God, you're fighting against God and you will not win. There is no victory against God, but there is a victory with God. And in the midst of their captivity, God is going to allow them to restore themselves by waiting, because he knows that some of them are not going to come in. I think sometimes I look back and I look out and I see some of the messages that we get from the political scene, and we know that this stuff is not right. And you ask yourself, what are they listening to that they don't hear and know the truth? This can't be truthful. And this is what God is speaking against in this lesson today. That you know the truth. I have told you what is truth, and you still disobey. So then he goes down into verses 10, and this is a powerful statement. He says, for I have set my face against this city for evil and not for good, saith the Lord. It shall be given into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall burn it with fire. He says, if you stay, you're going to be caught up, and the city is going to be burned. We know that God is an all-consuming fire, and that the fire is used to purify. Not only did Nebuchadnezzar burn the city, but they raped and pillaged all of the communities, and they burned the houses, and he tore down the walls, and he burned the gates so that it was left open and laid bare. And what the beautiful city that Jerusalem was no longer, it was desolate and destroyed. And he says, that's what I want you to tell the people, that they need to understand, if you remain, you will die. Then he goes and he talks to the king. He talks to the king. And remember, the king should have been a good king. Zedekiah was not. He aligned himself against God by going with the Egyptians. And as a result of that, he thought he had security, not in God, but in aligning himself with the Egyptians. So as a result of that, now this is interesting too, because Nebuchadnezzar put him in power, but he kept straddling the fence, going back and forth, once with Nebuchadnezzar, then he go back and be with the Egyptians. Well, he's Nebuchadnezzar, oh no, I can't have that. And in the midst of all of that, he was an oppressive king. He was evil. He listened only to the people that told him what he wanted to know. He did not have good advisors around him. That is so important that we find people that will be honest and truthful with us. And that's what we find in today's lesson. He rejected Jeremiah. He never heard what Jeremiah had to say. Instead, he allowed Jeremiah to be persecuted. But at the very moment that he needed, where did he go? He went to Jeremiah. And so in the lesson today, he tells him, Pastor David, you are going to be destroyed. You're going to be carried away, and so will your house, your family. And he said, go on with them. Go with them. He said, you're going to be destroyed. He said, I have set against thee in the valley and the rock and the plain. So what Zedekiah tried to do was flee the city. As a result of fleeing the city, he was caught. His sons were killed in front of him, and his eyes were gouged out, and he was blind. And then he was left there. So what we find in this lesson today, he says, who will come down against us? They were boastful. Israel was boastful. They thought because they had this security, this position up on the mountain, they felt that they could make it. But God is not one that can be mocked. He is not one that can be ignored, nor can he allow sin to run over him. He is a just God. He's holy. So what he does in this lesson today is send the warning. He says it's time. It tells us in his word that God is slow to anger and quick to mercy, but he does not. And we read last week, he hates sin and loves justice. So at this point, he is taking justice. He's doing the thing that needs to be done. So when we think about this lesson, it's really important for us to understand that God will use and allow evil to do his bidding. I always get impressed when people who think that they're much smarter. God is God. He created everything. There's no one smarter than the Lord. And it's so amazing to me when we think about how Jesus told Pilate, and I was so impressed with, he says, so you say you're the king of the Jews. I think it's over in John that he says to him, he says, I have your hands, your life and death is in your hands. Jesus said, man, he says, I can call down legions of angels. He said, my kingdom is not from this world. And then he says to him, he says, I choose to give up my life. He said, you don't take it from me, but I choose to give it up. Today, he's giving us a choice. He says, do you want to give up your life for sin, or do you want to live for me? I'd rather live for him in bondage than be caught up running from my life in sin. He says, what did he tell the man? He said, you live your life, you gain the whole world and lose your soul. God knows that what did he tell us a couple of weeks ago? We are the honor. We are the crown. We are the jewel in his crown. We are the hand of honor, the scepter in his hand. So when he thinks about that, how can he lift us up and raise us up if we are filled with sin? So today's lesson teaches us that God is going to do what God needs to do to make sure his children obey him. And that's why he moved against the city. That's why he says, practice justice. I'm looking at ourselves today. When we look at where we are and how we walk, we have to ask ourselves, and we know, what does it tell us in Psalms 139? God knows us. He knew us before we were birthed. He knew us before we were formed in our mother's womb. He knew us before we were even thought of. And even after we're here, he knows us. God's desire is for us to know him like he knows us. The intimacy that he desires. And when we have the intimacy with God, we won't sin against God. We won't turn our back on him because we know his power. So today's lesson has taught us so much about choosing. He says, I give you the choice of life and death. You can remain in your sin and die, pretty much is what he's saying. Or you can surrender to me and live. What did Jesus say in John the 14th chapter? He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And that's what's so important. So when we close out today's lesson, be mindful that there are consequences for our choices. There's consequences when we do the right thing, Because not everybody's going to love you. Jeremiah ran around for 51 years doing what God had told him to do and was rejected on everything. We know that our Savior was born and he came to save humanity from their sin, but he was rejected and scraps. So look at how horrible we treat one another. And God is God, but he is more merciful than the Chaldeans are going to be towards the children of Israel that remain. I think one of the things I loved about reading about David, when David sinned and God gave him a choice, he said, oh no, I would rather put myself in the hands of an angry God than humanity, because humanity is not merciful, but our God is. God is merciful. The one thing I want to leave you with, our choices, love makes us vulnerable to God's grace and his mercy. Our sin makes us vulnerable to his justice. He wants to remind us that he will always warn us. He's never just going to take action and not give you an opportunity to repent. He's always going to do that. But remember, God is not going to be patient for long. He's patient, but remember, at some point, he's going to move. He's going to act on his justice. He gives us choices. He allows the enemy to discipline us. And we are going to be disciplined according to the fruit that we provide. He disciplined them according to their fruit. Their fruit was wickedness, so they were subjected to wickedness. Wickedness much worse than the wickedness that they put forth. Double. He said, you're going to be punished double than what the Chaldeans had done. He says, God establishes his discipline based on his desire, not on ours, not on our time frame. And that's what's important. And you know what? Life and death is in each one of our individual choices. God chooses to give us a free moral mind to decide. He made us a little bit lower than the angels and gods of this world. We get to choose. And what does he say? Choose me. And then he says, God is the one who has victory over the enemy. Don't fight against God. It's not worth it. Go ahead and cooperate. When we go into a time of discipline and correction, chastisement, cooperate with God. That's what he's saying. Cooperate with me by going with the Chaldeans. What did Jesus do? Jesus stepped forward. He says, I am the one. Take me and let these men go. He says, I am the one. They took him and he was punished. He was as mum as an innocent lamb. He says, the Lamb of God never uttered a mumbling word. So do we have to mumble and grumble? No. We have to work through what God is working through in us. And that's the blessing that we have. He says, God is merciful. And the one thing I want us to be mindful of, when we get into a conflict like we're in right now, we're in a war. They decided that COVID-19 is a war. We need to start examining ourselves and trying to determine what's going on inside of each one of us. And then how does that impact the whole world? We got to think about all the hatred, the stuff that we see, the words that come out of the mouths of our leadership. How can the atmosphere be anything but conflict? And we, as children of God, have to bring about peace and love. The word that we get on the Sunday morning is about deliverance, not bondage. So in today's lesson, he gives you a choice, and you recognize that God is merciful, God is gracious, and he loves us more than we can imagine. But he also, because of that love, is going to discipline us. So thank you for joining us on Sunday School. I'm going to pray. I want to thank Sister Lisa Warren. She's a beautiful, I love watching these people do this thing right here. It is just such a beautiful language. Thank you, Pastor Gibbs. We appreciate you. And we just lift up God this morning. Amen. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our many blessings. We ask you bless this lesson. Bless those that receive the lesson. And Lord, continue to do what you will to mold us and bring us into your likeness. Help us to cooperate and not reject you in any way. In Jesus' name we pray and ask it all. Amen.